The challenges that we work with every day have to do with the sorts of challenges that many of the other continents face as well. But in Asia, they are probably more extreme than other continents, in the sense that we have the highest populations, the worst levels of poverty, the worst levels of degradation, and the highest biodiversity, some of the richest countries in the world, some of the richest individuals in the world. So the challenge really with IUCN is to try and develop and ensure that we respond to what our members' priorities are in terms of sustainable development, in terms of biodiversity conservation, in terms of poverty, and ensuring that while we look at the protection, if you like, of natural resources within the Asian subcontinent, we're also looking at human well-being. So most of our programs are designed around two areas of, if you like, focus. The first is to look at how we work in the big ecosystems of Asia. So increasingly our programs are now working on big river systems, on the Ganges Brahmaputra, on the Indus, on the Mekong, and possibly even on the Yangtze as we develop our program in China. We also work along the Himal-Hind Kush systems, along the big mountain chains of Asia. We work in the wetlands, the lakes, and we try and do everything within the context of ecosystems. And this means that we are working by and large, in many cases, transboundary. That gives us challenges, it also gives us huge opportunities. One of our most important programs came out of the post-tsunami phase, which is called Mangroves for the Future, which works along the coasts of Asia. Started out with 6 countries, is now got 8 countries with 4 more ready to join and as dialogue partners. We work in all 24 countries that we span. And when I talk of the Asia region, we work from Afghanistan in the west, to Japan in the east, to Mongolia in the north, to the Maldives in the south. So it is a vast land area. And of course it contains more than half of the world's population. It contains pretty much more than half of the world's biodiversity, and it contains more than half of the world's poor. And so I go back. The challenge then becomes the second focus that I spoke about, which is livelihoods. Because ultimately, if you look at what is the greatest stress factor on the environment, apart from climate change, and even that, as we well know from the latest findings, is human-induced. The greatest stress factor on the environment is the lifestyles and the economies that humans live within. So we would talk about the ecosystems and the livelihoods, and we combine the two. We also work in extremely insecure areas. We have stayed with countries through wars and through good times and bad times. So that does also mean that we are looking at issues of environment and security, because in many cases we know that the insecurity and the flashpoints of war usually have underlying great socioeconomic inequalities. And those socioeconomic inequalities generally are generated from an inequitable access and use of resources. So much of what we see in Pakistan, my own country, and what is happening in the great insecurity and the civil war, the nascent civil war that the country has been under for many years now, is largely influenced by the extreme resource stress and extreme resource constraints of the people that are on our border areas and in the north. And in fact, I'm always very proud of the fact that IUCN has worked in the last 30 years in Pakistan along the border areas. And some of our biggest programs have been in the most insecure areas, where in many ways the people need us the most. So that is a reflection of the Asia program, opportunities, great risks, and perhaps most importantly, great satisfaction in trying to address the kinds of issues that will continue to make Asia, I think, the continent of this particular century. And certainly in terms of some of the countries within Asia, China, India, Indonesia, and many others, those that will influence the course of the development of the world and how sustainable resources are managed, within the next 50 years.